power rule in a nutshell. But I would like to show you how to use your graphing calculator. So let's go to number 2, and let's start right here. And let's start with number 2, using the graphing calculator to find a derivative. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to show you 2 things. I want to show you how to find a derivative, and I want to show you how to graph a derivative. So let's start with, first of all, finding a derivative. So let's say I give you some function. So let's pick f of x equals the cubed root, or the let's say the 5th root of x to the 3rd power. But I want you to find f prime of 4. Okay, so I give you the function, and I want you to find f prime of 4. So first of all, let's do it without a calculator. So let's start with that. So let's go without, and just review this rule. So the first thing is if we're going to use the power rule, can't use it here because it's not in power form. So we need to change it to x to the 3/5. Okay. Now let's use the power rule to find the derivative. So move the 3/5 out to the front, and then you have to do x to the 3/5 minus 1. Okay, so when we do that, it ends up being 3/5 x to the negative 2/5. Remember, you can't have a negative in your exponent, so this needs to be moved to the bottom of the fraction. So it's going to be 3/5 x to the 2/5. Now, I want to find the derivative of this at x equals 4. So what I would end up doing is I would end up having to do 3/5, and I would have to substitute 4 into here and go to the 2/5. And now I would have to calculate that out. So this is where I'm going to stop here. Okay, I'm going to stop right here just because I wanted to show you how you do or use the power rule for something to a square root again. But now, this is going to be a very strange number, and you're going to need a calculator to figure that number out. Well, I'm going to show you kind of a fast way that we can go ahead and do this. So this is without a calculator. Now let's go with a calculator. So there are some features on your graphing calculator that you can use. So I'm first of all going to give you kind of the setup. And then once you have the setup, we're going to go through and I'll show you how to do it with your calculator. So here's the setup. If you have a TI-83 or an 84 that's older, you're going to have this setup. If you have a newer one, you're going to end up with a different setup. Now, I'm going to show you where these things are located and where you can find them, but here's how it works. If you're going to have a TI-84, there's this function called nDeriv. And what that means is you are going to find the derivative, or nDeriv, of a function at a certain point. So the first thing you have to do is you have to type in whatever the function is. Okay? Then you need to type in the variable that it is working with, and we are going to almost always use x. And then you need to type in the value that you are trying to find it at. Okay? And then it will calculate it for you. Now, if you have a newer one, they use this setup. What you're going to see is you're going to see n, or d over dx, and then it's going to ask you to type in the function here. Okay? And then it has a line, and then it's going to tell you x equals, and then you're going to have to put whatever number it is you're trying to find it at, so whatever that value is. Now, mine's an older model, so I am going to show you The key sequence to get there is the same, but you might have to fill in numbers a little bit differently. So first of all, to find it, the first place you have to go to is you are going to go to Math. So there's a button on your calculator that's called Math. Okay, so hit Math, and then you're going to have to go down the list. You'll notice that the first list, there's a bunch of things on the top, and you can use your arrows to go back and forth, but we're going to stay in Math. And I want you to go down to number 8. Okay, so you are going to go down to number 8 on the list, and you're going to go down to nDeriv. This is number 8. Or you can just type number 8. So if you hit the number 8, it will give you that one. Now, let's type in our function. From here on out, it's just going to be filling in the function. So I am going to type in x to the 3/5, okay? Because it's kind of hard to type in a square root. So I'm going to type in x and use my little caret and then put in parentheses 3/5, 3 divided by 5, okay? And then you have to put a comma in there, okay? Now the comma tells the calculator that you're done with the function. Now you need to put in the variable that we're focusing on, which is x, put in another comma, and I also now need to tell it at what value am I looking for. So I'm going to type in the value 4, and I close the parentheses. And then I hit enter. So once I do that, the f prime of 4 is equal to 0.3446. Okay, this is the instantaneous slope at x equals 4. Okay, so what the calculator's now done is it has calculated that value for you. Okay, so using the nDeriv, it will calculate those values for you. Now, there's one other thing that we can do, and we can use our calculators also, and we can graph these things, and then we can use our calculator that way. So let's say I wanted you to take this same function, but except this time we're just going to graph it. So if you're going to graph a function, remember you go to y equals, and I should clear my other functions, and I'm going to type in x to the, and I'm going to use parentheses, 3 divided by 5. And I can graph it. Now, sometimes it's nice to actually see the graph of the function. Okay? Now, once you have the graph, so let's say I give you the graph. So let's sketch the graph in our notes just quickly. If we have our graph, we can go here, and it just kind of goes up like this, goes up like this, and this is the graph of x to the 3/5. Okay? Now, there is a key sequence that you can use, except this one now, you have to go to second, and then go above the letter trace. Okay? And above that, you're going to, when you do that, it's going to use, and it's going to do what's called a calculation. So if you do second trace, you're going to see it's going to calculate. So do second trace, and now you're going to see all the calculation menus. So we are going to just go down to the one that says dy dx. So go down to the dy over dx, which is number 6. And when you hit enter, it's now going to have you pick an x value. So let's do x equals 4, and now hit enter. You'll notice the derivative at x equals 4 is now the same number. So we'll do dy dx at x equals 4 is equal to 0.3446. So these are two ways that you can use your calculator to calculate the derivative at any point. We can either do it without plotting the graph, or we can do it with plotting the graph. So that is the power rule in a nutshell, and that is also how you can use your graphing calculators to help you find derivatives in different places. So I hope this helps. And I hope you will be ready to work on these in class in the near future. Have a great rest of your day.